Hello world, it is I, the Mystic Philosopher, and of course you're tuned to the right number. Let me also welcome you to another of my video presentations in the series titled The Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. This presentation is titled A Picture is Worth More Than 1,000 Words, Part 1. It is the continuation of my response to the YouTube video titled What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People? And if you haven't yet watched or listened to my critique and analysis of his sermon in my earlier video titled A Response to What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People, I ask that you please do so now or do so at your earliest convenience. It would be nice if you could watch it before you even watch this video. For by doing so, you will get a much better understanding of this video and those that will follow. This is part 1. In this presentation and those that will follow, I will decode, critique, analyze, evaluate, and comment on most, and if time permits possible, all of the still images that are in the video. The video titled, the YouTube video titled, What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People? And my objectives are as follows. One is to continue prove to you that this preacher, Jesse Duplantis, is a liar. And that according to his own ancestors' Adamic race history and holy book, commonly known as the Christian Holy Bible and the Hebrew Scriptures, he is of his father Satan, the devil. 2, it is to continue prove to you that yes, he is preaching a gospel. He is preaching a gospel, a good news. His gospel and good news of salvation, blessings, promise, redemption, and amazing grace for himself and for his people, or for his race, for his Caucasian race of people. 3, my objectives are to continue prove to you that he's not preaching any good news for my people. He's not preaching any good news for we, the natural native earthly humans, and the highly melanin or highly carbon skin people. Nor is he preaching any good news about my people, the people that he, from my perspective, denigratingly called the black people. 4, I shall continue to prove to you that the preacher, or the preacher's video, comprising of his audio message, or if you prefer sermon, and the supported still images of his convert, or to be more precise, his audio message and sermon accompanied by the supported still images that are contributed by one of his many converts, his faithful follower and collaborator. I shall continue to prove to you that it is a propaganda video that is designed to continue belittle and insult my ancestors and my people, or if you prefer, my race. For 5, or another of my objectives, number 5, another of my objectives is to continue prove to you that his very faithful convert, follower, collaborator, and video maker, namely LP like Paul, is either an idiot or either he is truly a black man in every sense of the word black, or a sellout, a pervert, a betrayer, of his own people, or all of the above. Why? For him selecting and using some of what I think are the most corny still images or still pictures in the preacher's video sermon, in his attempt to support his master and preacher Jesse Duplantis' propaganda against his LP like Paul own people. Now, from time to time during this presentation, I will be both asking and reminding you to please pay very close attention to the image or images that are on your screen, or that is on your screen. They are and will be images that are taken directly from the preacher and his convert's propaganda video. So please pay very close attention to the video that is now on your screen and observe it very, very carefully. There is an old adage which states that a picture is worth 1,000 words. But I will take the liberty and say that a picture is worth much more than 1,000 words. And what exactly does this adage mean? Well, according to one web definition, and I quote, the adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words, referred to the notion that a complex idea can be conveyed with just a single still image. It also aptly characterizes one of the main goals of visualization, namely making it possible to observe large amount of data quickly, unquote. Now, with this knowledge and fact in mind, I ask that you please rewatch the video titled "What Did Jesse Duplantis Say About Black People?" Unfortunately, I do not have the facility or the way with all to inject it into this video that I'm making. But I ask that you rewatch it. It's easy. Just simply Google it, rather. Go to YouTube and you'll find it. It's right there. And as you are watching it, I ask that you please pay very close attention and carefully note how methodically and strategically arranged the still images are in this the preacher and his convert, follower, and video maker LP like Paul propaganda video. The first two images, and also the very last image that you will no doubt notice in the video, is that of the preacher who, from my perspective, can be best described as a stealth Caucasian male that is hereby presenting and projecting himself to the mentally, physically, spiritually, and intellectually blind world as white. A stealth Caucasian who many of you will no doubt think, believe, say, and are even calling him a white man. For your information, it is not by an accident or a roll of the dice that his, meaning the preacher's image, is placed at the beginning of the video, nor is it by an accident or a roll of the dice that it is repeated multiple times, and also that it is placed at the end of the video. Remember that our basic common sense, or at the very least, it should tell us, our basic common sense should tell us that nobody, including myself, or no one, makes a video without having a specific goal or without having some specific goals in mind. In other words, what they want and what they are hoping to achieve from making and publishing the video. For example, how many people they would like to listen or watch it? How many people they want to convince or to convert with the video, etc. It's just like any other form of political or commercial advertisement. Videos, however simple and unsophisticated they may appear to be, they are created by employing the science and the art of persuasion to some greater or to some lesser degree. So from my perspective, the preacher, Jesse Duplantis' image, it is placed at the beginning of his video by design. It is intentional. It is placed there by the design of his ardent follower, convert, collaborator and video maker, namely LP like Paul. And it is done with the deceptive motive of impressing upon the unconscious minds of their very trusting and unsuspecting victims and converts, and especially those very trusting and unsuspecting victims and converts that he, the preacher, disparagingly called the black people. The false and erroneous idea of his superiority. It is there to impress upon their minds the false and erroneous idea of his, the preacher's superiority, of his authority, of his holiness, of his perceived whiteness, and his power. Yes, it is placed there at the beginning of the video to impress upon the minds of our people that he is the man of God that comes with a message from God that they must listen to and obey, etc. However, anyone that would look at this image and would have the nerve to tell me, or to tell I, the Mystic Philosopher, that this is a white image or that this is a white man, then I will tell that person that he or she needs to be really and literally born again. And the second time having been born again, I would strongly suggest that he or she ensure that this time he or she gets a healthy sense of good eyesight, for it is evident that such an individual is beyond blind, is beyond intellectual retardation, is beyond brain dead or comatose. And that was one of the preacher's first lies that I have already exposed in one of my previous videos, and one that his convert, follower and video maker, LP like Paul, is hereby trying to authenticate as truth. He is trying to authenticate as truth that this image that you are now looking on is that of a white man. In other words, with this image, he, LP like Paul, is hereby saying to our people in whom religion and the fear of this preacher's ancestors, along with the fear of this preacher and his ancestors' very terrible, fearful and dreadful God, have been terribly, fearfully, dreadfully and most violently beaten and tortured into them. LP like Paul, in the service of his master, the preacher, is hereby saying with this image that here is a white man from God, in whom I am well pleased, so hear ye him. This is what LP like Paul is trying to convey to our people. The second image is the second image that you will notice is the one that is also currently on your screen. It is an image, or a picture if you prefer, of a faceless or headless brother or sister in chains and shackles, with his or her hands held down and his or her fist tightly clenched. Now, what is so significant about this image, some of you may ask? For your information, a raised clenched fist is a well-known practice that is common among us, natural, native, earthly humans around the world, especially those of us that are engaged in the struggle for freedom, justice, and peace from the very fearful, dreadful and terrible alien creatures, invaders, conquerors, and colonizers that invaded, conquered, and colonized our home and Mother Earth in the name of their very fearful, their very dreadful, and terrible creator, God, gods, lords, king, queen, country, power, dominion, and greed. In fact, according to Wikipedia, and I quote, the raised fist, also known as the clenched fist, is a symbol of solidarity and support. It is also used as a salute to express unity, strength, defiance, or resistance. The salute dates back to ancient Assyria as a symbol of resistance in the face of violence, unquote. Now, please note that it is not just the clenched fist that is a great symbol, or that is of great significance. It is not just the clenched fist that is of great significance, but it is the raised clenched fist that is a symbol of solidarity and support. It is the raised clenched fist that is a symbol of power. It is the raised clenched fist that is also used as a salute to express unity, strength, defiance, or resistance. It is the raised clenched fist that is a symbol of a salute and as a symbol of resistance in the face of violence. So from this fact, we can interpret and understand that if the fist is clenched but held down, it is a symbol of defeat. Now, I personally think that it is very important that I seize this opportunity and point out here the fact that the only two descendants of the victims of the European transatlantic slave trade and the direct victims of the black Caucasians and their America's institutionalized system of racism, bigotry, violence, human exploitations, human atrocities, and gross injustices that I am personally and currently aware of, the only two to have seized the momentous opportunity and publicly raise their clenched fist as a sign, a salute, and a symbol of solidarity and support for their own people, the only two to have raised their clenched fist as a sign and symbol of power, as a salute to express unity, strength, defiance, and resistance against America's injustice and unspeakable violence directed at them and their own people, and the only two people to have raised their clenched fist before the world and exposed and truly embarrassed the black Caucasians and their America's system of hatred and injustice against them and their people are the Olympic sprinters and gold medalist Tommy Smith and the bronze medalist John Carlos. They are the only two descendants of victims of the European transatlantic slave trade that seized the glorious opportunity to represent their people in the spirit of our ancestors that suffered at the merciless and fearless hands of the black Caucasians as they stood atop the medal podium at the 1968 Summer Games in Mexico City, bowed their heads and raised black gloves, clenched fists during the playing of the American national anthem. Now, here is a direct quote from a website called Life at life.com. And I quote, "Millions of their fellow Americans were outraged by countless millions around the world or around the globe thrilled to the sight of two men standing before the world, unafraid, expressing disillusionment with a nation that so often fell and still falls so short of its promise," unquote. From my perspective, these two brothers, then and our elders now, are two of our greatest heroes and role models that we, the natural native earthly humans, we, the highly and richly blessed melanin people should and must celebrate and emulate. They are the two role models for our people, and particularly role models for our youths. Not some of the many other sellouts, the many other religious and political prostitutes, converts and betrayers that the Black Caucasian system now eagerly promotes, that the Black Caucasian system often quotes, often make references or reference to, and have made famous, sometimes to the point of them being worshipped. If this video maker, LP like Paul, was not a convert of the said system and religion that brutally enslaved and oppressed our ancestors, and if he was not such a faithful follower of this preacher, and a sellout of his people and a betrayer of his ancestors, then these are our two greatest heroes in America that he should be making videos about. If he was not a sellout, a suck up, a convert, and a faithful servant of his Black Caucasian masters, then the image or the picture of our two brothers and now elders, Tommy Simit and John Carlos, with their clenched fist or their clenched raised fist high on top of the medal podium in Mexico City, should be the one in his video, and not some figure and symbol of a brother or sister, one of our own that is defeated, captured, and put in the Black Caucasian system's chains and shackles, and possibly sold into slavery, if not brutally murdered by the Black Caucasians. Their image standing, or their picture if you prefer, standing on the medal podium with raised clenched fist should be in this video, in the video called What Jesse Duplantis Has to Say About Black People. That is the image that should be there in place of this, the headless video. For the record has shown that no other of our people have done what they have done while having the spotlight of the entire world on them. No other have done it. They are the real men who, by their actions, selflessness, and genuine love for their people, said, give my people their freedom. Give my people their equal rights. Give my people their civil rights. Give my people their humanity. Give my people their dignity. Give my people their respect. And give my people their true justice, or give us too that are standing here debt. They were not concerned or worried about making money from commercial endorsements or going to the White House or to the governor's house to meet and greet and to be praised by their slave masters or slave mistresses. Nor were they concerned about the scorn and rejection that they would have received from the American Black Caucasian society, and the many rejections that they would have received from some of their own people, their fellow brothers and sisters, especially the religious and political sellouts, prostitutes, then and now. And that is why I had to make mention of them here. I could not and I cannot talk about clenched fist or raised clenched fist and not mention their names and their greatness. From my perspective, the only mistake that they made, and one which I have also attributed to their then lack of knowledge and possibly their still lack of knowledge today, was the use of the curse word, the curse label, sign and symbol, black. Their use of the curse word, label, sign and symbol, black, that was bestowed on our ancestors, not by themselves, but by their slave traders, their slave masters, their prosecutors and oppressors, the Black Caucasians, then and the curse word, label, sign and symbol, black, that is still being bestowed on us, their descendants today, by our ancestors, slave masters, and oppressors, heirs and successors, the black Caucasians now. So our ancestors did not call themselves black, did not name themselves black. It was their adversaries, their oppressors, their slave masters, their exploiters, the black Caucasians, who named them black and have us inherit the curse word black on us today, which I am trying to tell us, get rid of it. But more on that later. So let us again focus on the image on the screen. Here, from my perspective, is a maliciously chosen image that is depicting a headless, faceless, and by implication, a brainless, natural, native, earthly human. A human brother or sister that this preacher, his religious converts, and many others like himself, along with the system, knowingly and intentionally called, labeled, listed, and profiled a black man or a black woman. A black man or black woman in chains and shackles, with his or her fist clenched and his or her hands weighted down by chains and shackles. Now please observe and note carefully that his or her clenched fist hands are not raised, and neither can they be raised, because they are held down by the heavy shackles and chains of his or her invaders, conquerors, oppressors, and colonizers. The clenched fist hands in this image are depicting a conquered, helpless, physically defeated, and angry and humiliated human brother or sister. And what are some of the very crafty messages and ideologies, devious and deceptive lies that are being told and transmitted by this image in this preacher's and his convert LP like Paul video to the world, and are interpreted by the naive, uncritical, unsuspecting, and unguarded subconscious minds of the majority, if not all, of his converts, and the close to 300,000 viewers that have already watched this video. It, and maybe millions of those that may watch or listen to it in the future, you may ask. Now let me point out a few of the deceptive ideologies and lies that are being conveyed. Let me point out a few. But first, let me show you that one of the first devious and deceptive lies that are being transmitted by this image in this preacher's and his converts video to the world, and one that is being interpreted by the naive and critical and suspecting and unguarded subconscious, conscious and subconscious minds of the majority, if not all his converts, and maybe millions of those that may watch or listen to him, is that this image or this picture that you are now looking at is that of a black man or a black woman in chains and shackles. And I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, my viewers and listeners that are currently watching and listening to me, will agree with this lying preacher and his converts propaganda video and say that this faceless and headless image that you are now looking at is that of a black man or a black woman. That it is a black man or a black woman that is either a prisoner in chains and shackles, or it is the image of a black slave that is held in chains and shackles. But I shall hereby prove to you that we have no evidence that will prove conclusively that the image that you are now looking at on your computer monitor, and one that was taken directly from the preacher's sermon and his converts video, is that of a black man or a black woman. Secondly, I shall prove to you that under the circumstances, we have far more evidence that will prove to the contrary, meaning that this image is not a black man or a black woman. And third, I shall also prove to you that it is used in their video. This image is used in their video to deceive you into accepting it as being black, or as being a black human, or as being a black person. And I am not in the least blaming you, because that is what you are programmed by the system to see. That is what you are programmed by the system to think, and that is what you are programmed by the system to believe. And being a victim of the system, and once being a victim of the system myself, and to some degree still a victim of the system programming myself, that is what I too saw. Though that is what I saw, and that was I thought and believed before I became enlightened, and thereby gaining more insight into the workings and operations of the Black Caucasian system. So back then, when I was in most of your position, I was looking at this and saying it's a black man or a black woman. But we shall learn more. I have already implied and will now also admit that it is possible that this image is that of a black man or a black woman, and that it is also possible that it is not a black man or a black woman. However, the preacher's sermon and the video is not designed to give you the option of even thinking that it is not a black man or a black woman. And why? It is because it is a propaganda video that is designed to enforce and to reinforce stereotypes and lies, and to denigrate my people, the people that from my perspective the preacher contemptuously called the black people, and the people that his faithful convert and follower LP like Paul is hereby promoting as them being a black people. Now, if at all you are puzzled or confused, and if you genuinely want the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and if you will trust your own natural intelligence and your own physical sense of sight, then please allow me to dissect the word confuse and remove the con from the fused while I evaluate and answer this question. The question is, who is a black man? And by extension, who is a black woman? Now, please note that I did not ask who is a man, but I specifically asked who is a black man. In other words, we need to know what makes a man black, or we need to know what makes the man black. And in general, we need to know what makes a people or a person black. So, in order to answer the question correctly and without prejudice, we must know the meanings, definitions, and also what part of speech is the word black. And the first thing that we will discover is that black is an adjective. I can remember being taught in English grammar class many years ago that an adjective is a describing word. And even if I had forgotten that fact, the dictionary that gives me the definition and the definitions of the word black also gives me the definition of the word adjective. And I'll quote for accuracy. Adjective, and I quote, 1, a part of speech expressing quality or condition. 2, a word used to limit or define a noun or a pronoun, unquote. So here we can see and must also agree that the English word black is an adjective that is hereby describing the man, that is hereby defining the man, and that is hereby expressing the quality, nature, character, and characteristics of the man that is being talked about in the question. And the question again is, who is a black man? And among all the many meanings and definitions of the English word black that you will find are that it is the opposite of white. Black is almost without light and the absence of light. Black is gloomy. Black is pessimistic. Black is dismal. Black is threatening. Black is hostile. Black is without moral goodness. Black is a disgrace, or black is indicating disgrace. Black is soiled or stained with dirt, or black is very dirty. Black is deliberately harmful. Black is inexcusable. Black is evil. Just to name a few. And I challenge you to just Google the meaning of the word black, and check it in various dictionaries for yourself. And you will find that I'm not making this up. So by definition, meaning and intention, answering the question, who is a black man, and by extension, who is a black woman, a black boy, a black girl, or a black child, the answer is therefore a black man is a man that is the opposite of a white man. In other words, a black man is not the same as a white man. And a black man is not equal to a white man. And a white man is not equal to a black man. A black man is not and cannot, will not, and should not be treated the same as a white man, and vice versa. A black man is almost without light. And in some instance, a black man is the absence of light. For your information, light is a symbol of illumination. It is a symbol of sense, intelligence, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and wise judgment. Therefore, a black man is a man that is without illumination, spiritual and otherwise. A black man is a man that is without intelligence. A black man is a man that is without knowledge. A black man is a man that is without understanding. A black man is a man that is without wisdom. And as such, a black man is unable and totally incapable of making wise judgment. I'm not done yet. A black man is a gloomy man. A black man is a pessimistic man. A black man is a dismal man. A black man is a threatening man. A black man is a hostile man. A black man is a man that is without moral goodness. A black man is a disgraced man. A black man is a disgraceful man. A black man is a man that is indicative of disgrace. In other words, a black man is a disgrace to the human race. Therefore, if or when you see a black man, you are seeing embarrassment of the human race, an embarrassment to the human family. I'm not done yet. A black man is a man that is soiled or stained with dirt. In other words, a black man is a very dirty man. A black man is a deliberately harmful man. A black man is an inexcusable man. In other words, a black man's status as a human should not be justified. And finally, for now, a black man is an evil man. Please check your dictionary for me, my friends. Now, could somebody please tell I, the Mystic Philosopher, who in their right mind would want to be called, named, listed, profiled, or labeled black, and above all, call him or herself? Who would want to call him or herself black after being awakened to this knowledge and truth that is right here before our eyes? I personally think maybe only a truly black person would want to do that, and even if they do, I still question their motives. Another very relevant fact that I think I must also quickly point out here is that, strictly and analytically speaking, black is not a color, and white is not a color either. Color, by definition, is the variation of light or light wave within the visible spectrum. And the visible spectrum, as it relates to human, or to the human eye, or to the human eyesight, is between black and white, or between darkness and light. Now, this is a subject that I have covered exhaustively elsewhere, and also in one of my lecture presentations. However, it is also interesting to note that when black is used as a color in any valued color-coded system, its value, meaning black's value, to the best of my knowledge, is always 0, meaning the value of the color black is 0 or nothing. It values nothing. And when white is used as a color in the same valued system, its value is the highest. Example, in computer HTML codes, the hexadecimal value of black is 0000000, 6 zeros, while the hexadecimal value of the color white is FFFFFF, or rather 6 Fs. And in electronics, resistor color code is from 0 to 9. Black is 0 and white is 9. In other words, the color black in electronics is 0. Some would say nada. But the value of white is 9. And the value of black in computer HTML technology is the hex, or hex number, X meaning the base 10, rather the base 16, is 0000000, 6 zeros. And when that number is converted to decimal or to base 10, the value is 0. In this time, instead of 6 zeros, it's 1 0. And the value, at the same token, the value of white in X, or in the hexadecimal system, which is FFFFFF, 6 Fs. And when it is converted from hexadecimal, which is base 16, to our commonly known decimal system, or base 10, its value is over 16 million. In fact, 16,777,215, or roughly 16.8 million. Now, this is just food for thought. Now, most people that are being true and honest to themselves after looking at this image will agree that there is nothing in this image and nothing that is said about this image by the preacher or his convert in their video that would or that could define this individual as a black man or a black woman. Let me take it one step further. There is nothing in this image and nothing that is said about this image by the preacher in his video that could or that would prove that this man or woman is a black skinned man or a black skinned woman. Now, please note, I said a black skinned man and not a black man. For your information, a black skinned man and a black man are not the same. A black skinned man or a black skinned woman, also called a dark skinned man or a dark skinned woman, is by definition and by society's practical interpretation a man or woman with bad skin, a man or woman with disgraceful skin and ugly skin, etc. While a light skinned man or woman, also called a white skinned man, fair skinned man, blonde skinned man or woman, is a man or woman with good skin, high color skin, beautiful skin, lovely skin, etc. That is society's practical interpretation. In other words, with a black skinned man or a black skinned woman, only his or her skin is no good. Only his or her skin is ugly or bad or evil, etc. But with a black man or a black woman, everything about him or her is bad, evil, and ugly. On the other hand, everything about a white man or a white woman is good. Skin, character, history, and all. Remember that black is the opposite of white. However, the fact is that there are no white people or white-skinned people, and there are no real true black-skinned people, the natural native earthly humans, or there is no real true black-skinned race of people, the natural native earthly humans, a human race, living on this planet Earth. And neither are there any black-skinned or white-skinned human being, humankind, mankind, womankind, etc., that are visibly living and walking around among us on this our planet Earth today, or maybe never. And anybody that is calling themselves white, naming themselves white, telling you that they are white, presenting themselves as if they are white, and are calling you black, well, I, the Mystic Philosopher, is hereby telling you that they are all liars. And according to their own Adamic race history and holy book called the Holy Bible and the Hebrew Scriptures, they are of their father, who they call Satan, the devil. And if you are afraid to tell them to their face that they are liars and the children of their father, Satan, the devil, then just walk away from them. Get away from them as quick as possible. Because it is not wise to argue or try to pick a fight with a devil or with devils. But I suggest you walk away knowing of a fact that you have just come face to face with a devil or with devils. By now, you should know that the people that call themselves white and the people that the world is calling white is in no sense of the word white. And now that you know for yourselves the meanings and definition of the word black, you should also know that the people that are called, named, labeled, listed, and profiled black by the Black Caucasian system are not the real and true black ones. They are not the real and true black people or the real and true black race. And how do you know who are the true black ones? How do you know who are the true black people, the true black race, and the true black system? The answer is very simple, and I gave it in one of my songs. It is by their fruits that you shall know them. Meaning it is by their works, their deeds, and their actions that you shall know them. And it is by its works, its deeds, and its actions that you shall know it. It being the system. And of course, he who feels it knows it. And those of us who feels it and is feeling it knows it and know them. The fact is that there are some of us, the natural native earthly human, my ancestors and my people today, that our mother nature and source has richly blessed with highly melanin skin. Richly blessed with highly EU melanin skin, I might add. Or more correctly, we are richly blessed with high carbon skin. Now, I want you to please listen carefully and understand the difference. I did not say we are richly blessed with black skin. For now you know that the word black means nothing good and nothing to be desired. And because of this, our great riches, this, our blessings and wealth of melanin, wealth of EU melanin or carbon, from our divine mother and source, Mother Nature, our enemies, the aliens, conquerors and colonizers, they envy us. And especially those of our enemies that are visibly and seriously melanin deficient to the point that their ability to continue surviving on this our planet Earth is in serious jeopardy. They are seriously at great risk of becoming extinct. Moreover, they know that they are a creation. They know that they were created by their creator, and as such, they know that they are creatures and that they have a beginning and they also have an end. They also know that we the natural native earthly humans, we are not creatures. They know that we have no creator. They know that we are natures. They are creatures, but we are natures. And as such, we have no beginning and we have no end. Consequently, they are passionately yet secretly envious of us. And why? It is because of their lack of our Mother Nature's gift of the thing called melanin. Nature people are highly melaninated people. Natural people are highly melaninated people. Others are not. Creatures are not. Evidence of which is seen displayed and manifested in the form of their jealousy, in the form of their jealousy, hatred, contempt, abuse, and despise for us. And as a result of their envy, they have inflicted and are continuing to inflict all manner of evils on us, including calling, naming, labeling, profiling us black. Some evil cohabit or breed with us, or some of us. Not because they like or love us. Not at all. Please do not be deceived. But it is their instinct. It is in their instinctively. It is in their desperate attempt to guarantee their possible survival on this planet. Now back to the image. Those of you that are honest, at the very least to yourself, honest to yourself, and those of you that are not visibly impaired or intellectually impaired, you will agree, having looked at this image or picture, you will agree that if this man had black skin, then portion of his hands and his clenched fist would not and could not be visible in this video. Please take a closer look at it again, for his hands would be like the black background. With the lack of information that would or could prove that this image is that of a black man or a black woman, we are only left with speculation and imagination. And if we were to speculate, especially based upon our experience, it is possible that this is the image of an innocent human. This is the image of an innocent brother or sister that has fallen victim to the real Satan, has fallen victim to the real devils and the real evil system. We can speculate that here is an innocent human, a brother or a sister that is being falsely accused, a brother or sister that is being violently captured, falsely or wrongfully imprisoned, viciously and maliciously prosecuted. Here is a brother that is eagerly and mercilessly put, brother or sister that is eagerly and mercilessly put in chains and shackles, that is violated mentally and physically abused, that is humiliated, that is traded like cattle. Here's a brother or sister that is enslaved, that is being dehumanized, demoralized, being victimized, you name it. All these at the hands of the true black ones, the real black Caucasians, the true evil ones, the real invader Satan and his devils among us today that are disguising themselves as white and as angels of light. So this image, along with all the rest of images in this video, is deliberately chosen and strategically designed as the preacher and his video makers' propaganda video to malign my ancestors. It is a propaganda video and sermon that is intent on humiliating us. Please note, not intent on honoring or complimenting or in any way liberating and uplifting us. Because there's nothing honorable, there's nothing complimenting, there's nothing positive, there's nothing uplifting, liberating, enlightening, redemptive, role model, etc. about this or any of the images that are so strategically placed in this video or in this video message or sermon for us, the people who the preacher knowingly, deliberately, intentionally and disparagingly called the black race, the black people. But it is intent on humiliating, demoralizing, and dehumanizing us, the natural native earthly human, in every possible way that he and his video maker, LP like Paul, could think of via this medium. Now please take another look at the image from the preacher's video again, and you will see that it is placed here or in the video, in his video, to remind us of the fact that our ancestors were brought here by the preacher's ancestors, as chattel slaves in chains and shackles via the European transatlantic slave trade, and to tell us and imprint on our subconscious mind the diabolic lie that they, meaning our ancestors, and by extension us, their descendants today, are nothing but mindless, headless, brainless, voiceless, powerless slaves. This image in this video, the preacher's video, and the one you're looking at the screen, the same thing, a copy of it, is the preacher and his cohort attempt to constantly remind us that our ancestors were bought, sold, and owned as property by the preacher's ancestors, the black Caucasians, the same black Caucasians that intentionally and deceptively named and called themselves white people, meaning pure people, good people, superior people, so-called civilized people, the people of light, etc. This image is here by telling us that we are black, meaning we are no good, we are evil. This is here to have us believe that we are black, meaning no good or evil, to continue reinforce the lie that we, the natural native earthly human of highly melanin skin, are the black ones, the black race, that we are the evil ones and the evil race, etc. This image is strategically placed in the preacher's sermon video by his convert, the video maker, who is also from our own people, but whose race memory gene or race memory DNA that contains the terrible and dreadful fear of his preacher and his preacher's God has been activated or reactivated. And by obediently doing the work of his slave masters, he is hereby trying to have us believe that his ancestors, or rather that his master, the black Caucasians, are the white or the pure and good ones. And then to have us hate ourselves for being what they say we are, what they tell us we are, and what they have most of us believe that we are. Black. Now, make no bones about it. None of the images that are methodically chosen and strategically arranged in this 3.37 minute Jesse Duplantis video by his convert, his faithful follower and video maker, LP like Paul, is in any wise depicting anything good about my people. That is hereby depicting anything good and uplifting about my people, or any good news for my people, or any good news about my people. Look at the image. Look at it again. And tell I, the Mystic Philosopher, if this is something that you would like your children, your young or your teenage male child in particular, to look at and to be proud of and to be inspired by. Remember, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. If this sermon and video was about good news for my people, what is an image like this doing in it? Let me remind you again that a picture is worth more than 1,000 words. From my perspective, this image in this sermon is covertly designed to mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and otherwise subjugate my people, to further demoralize my people, and to have us believe that we are black, that we are evil, that we are the creatures, that we are the sinners, and that we are sinful, and that we are full of sin. It is intentionally selected, designed, and strategically placed here in this video by this preacher's faithful follower and video maker to activate or reactivate, and in many cases to reinitialize or to initialize the race memory or gene, or the race memory DNA that contains the terrible fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters, the black Caucasians, and their very terrible, fearful, and dreadful, and their very terrible, fearful, and dreadfulness, and the very terrible, fearful, and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters, their heirs and their successors, and the black Caucasians' God that were most fearfully and most mercilessly beaten and tortured into them. Lest you forget what I'm talking about or think that I am making up stuff, let me again read to you a quote from the man that is called the father of the American civil rights movement, an abolitionist, a human rights and women's rights activist, an orator, an author, a journalist, a publisher, and a social reformer, namely Frederick Douglass, and the Willie Lynch documents titled "Let's Make a Slave." And I quote, "Take the meanest and most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female and the nigger infant, tar him, or tar and feather him, tie each leg to a different horse facing opposite directions, set him on fire and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining nigger. Then the next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining nigger male to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding," unquote. So here is documented proof, and not just hearsay, that the fear of these very terrible, fearful, and dreadful slave masters, the black Caucasians, and by extension, the terrible fear and dreadfulness of their heirs and successors today, and their very terrible, fearful, dreadful, and vengeful God, is in each and every one of my people, especially those of us who are the descendants of the direct victims of the transatlantic slave trade. So this image is intentionally selected, designed, and strategically placed in the preacher's sermon video to activate or reactivate the fear of his and his ancestors' very terrible, very fearful, very dreadful, and very vengeful God. And I have no doubt that if one should ask the preacher or his convert, the faithful follower LP like Paul, how did it happen or why did he place it there, they will both say that it was by the inspiration of their God's Holy Spirit, and that it is their God's will. It was done by their God's will, and it is their God's will for it to be there. And one of the many sad things about it is that it was done by one of our own people. It was done by one of our own highly rich or highly melanin or carbon-skinned brother, one who has become one of the preacher's most faithful follower, most faithful promoter, and most faithful video maker. And of course, one of our own, in whom the race memory gene, DNA, that contains the terrible fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors' slave masters, our ancestors' slave traders, our ancestors' oppressors and persecutors, has been activated or reactivated. The same race, or the same race memory gene that we all have inherited from our ancestors, that contain the very terrible fear of our ancestors, slave traders, slave masters, oppressors and persecutors, heirs and successors, and our ancestors, slave traders, slave masters, oppressors and persecutors, very terrible, fearful, vengeful, and dreadful God. It has been reactivated, or it has been activated in him. And the purpose of strategically placing this image in the video is to activate, and in many cases to reactivate, the race memory gene that contains the terrible fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters, oppressors and persecutors, the black Caucasians, and their very terrible, fearful and dreadful, and their very terrible, fearful and dreadfulness of our ancestor slave masters' ears and successors, the black Caucasians, God, that were most fearfully and most mercilessly beaten and tortured into them. And consciously or unconsciously, that is what happened. And that is what is currently happening to our people today, especially those that are watching and listening to these preachers and video makers, to their videos and to videos like these. And the moment the fear of the very fearful and dreadful God and the fear of his very fearful and dreadful servants, the black Caucasians, that were most violently and most viciously beaten and tortured into our ancestors is activated in them, they start to speak like how the slave masters require of them to speak. They start to become educated like how the slave master require of them to be educated. They start to groom themselves like how the slave masters require of them to groom. They start to preach and teach the slave master's gospel and religion as it belongs to them, as if it belongs to them, just like how the slave masters require of them to preach and teach. They start to love the slave master, the slave master's children, the slave master's God, the slave master's music, the slave master's sports or games, the slave master's customs and practices, just like how the slave masters dictate and prescribe it for them to do. And above all, they start hating themselves and their own people and everything, just like how the slave master require of them to do. In other words, the moment the race memory gene, which contained the fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters and their heirs and successors, the black Caucasians and their God, is activated or reactivated in any of our people, they immediately become sellouts, snitches, rats, recommitted slaves to our real and formidable enemies and to our enemies God, God's Lord, Saviors, etc. The moment the race memory gene DNA, which contains the fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters, oppressors and prosecutors, the black Caucasians, and the fear and dreadfulness of their God is activated or reactivated in our people today, they become betrayers, they become haters, despisers, abusers, prosecutors, exploiters, robbers, killers and murderers of their own people and their own race. This is evident, meaning the activated and reactivated race memory gene is and can be readily observed in the way we experience being treated with disdain, contempt and abuse by some of our own highly melanin skinned people. People from our own race that are given promotions in the various positions of power and authority in the black Caucasian religious political pyramid twin system. I am talking about some of our people that are now politicians, preachers, clergymen or women, medical doctors, nurses, judiciaries, police, parking ticket agents, campus security officers, lawyers, transit police, security guards, bus drivers, shopkeepers, warehouse managers or warehouse supervisors, educators, construction managers, government employees, bank tellers, journalists, radio and TV talk show hosts, entertainers, especially those that have a little money, fame and celebrity status. You name them. And now you know that the reason why some of them are so rude, so insolent, so harsh, so ill-tempered, so cocky, so merciless, so abusive, so murderous, and the reason why they will treat us and have treated us, the reason why they have treated us the way treated us, their own people, with such outright disrespect and impunity is because the race memory gene, which contains the fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters, oppressors and prosecutors, are being, and by extension their heirs and successors today, the very black Caucasians, then and now, and the fear of their very terrible, fearful and dreadful God is activated or has been reactivated in them. The moment the race memory gene, which contains the fear and dreadfulness of the black Caucasians and the fear and dreadfulness of their very terrible, fearful and dreadful God is activated or reactivated in our people, they become converts, followers, preachers, evangelists and Bible teachers, Bible scholars and religious zealots, etc. of our ancestors, slave masters, oppressors and prosecutors, their heirs and successors, the black Caucasians' religion. and they become even more possessed with and by the dreadful fear and the terrible fear of our ancestors, very fearful and dreadful slave masters, heirs and successors, and their very terrible, fearful and dreadful gods, God, saviors, lords, masters and creatures, etc. So now you know. This image is by design. It is selected and strategically placed in the video by one of our own, one whose race memory gene, which contains the fear and dreadfulness of our ancestors, slave masters, oppressors and persecutors, the very black Caucasians, and the fear and dreadfulness of their heirs and successors, God is activated or is reactivated in them. And so, here, he is knowingly or unknowingly, faithfully and obediently doing the work of our ancestors, slave masters, and their heirs and successors. And in this direct case, he is hereby doing the work of his preacher, Jesse Duplantis, by trying to have us, his own people, think and believe that we are headless, mindless, brainless, unintelligent, etc., and that we are a black, threatening race of people that belong in chains and shackles, in order that we may be contained and controlled by his master. It is by their strategic design and their desire to have us, the natural native earthly humans, the highly rich melanin or carbon skinned people, to see and believe that we, and in particularly our strong young men, our fathers and defenders, are nothing but their slaves, that we are worth nothing of real value, that we all belong in their black Caucasian systems, chains and shackles, that we are their prisoners that belong in prisons, and that we should not even think of criticizing them, let alone attempt to defy them. And finally, it is to have us think and believe that we are not even free to express unity among each other, free to express mental, spiritual, intellectual strength or resistance. So these are just few of the subtle, disturbing and destructive messages that this still image is sending to our unsuspecting subconscious minds, and particularly to the minds of our youths via this preacher, Jesse Duplantis, and his convert LP like Paul sermon and propaganda video. From my perspective, only a fool, or only those that are deceived and hopelessly converted by this man and his religion and his religious and alien ideology or ideologies, would look at this image and listen to this preacher's sermon or message and say or call it redemptive. Say it is redemptive, or call it redemptive, call it liberating and positive, or see it as a liberating and positive image of our people, or say or call it a redemptive, liberating and positive image of our people that the preacher so scornfully called the black people, and a people that his convert, his ardent believer and follower, LP like Paul, continues to promote to the world as a black people. Now, this is the end of part 1 of my video presentation titled "A Picture is Worth More Than 1,000 Words." Now, please join me in part 2, where I will examine another image as I continue to decode for you some more of the diabolic messages that are used in this preacher's message and video by his faithful and obedient servant, LP like Paul. I am the Mystic Philosopher. Thanks for listening.